While you're pulling it up, I spent 38 years with NRCS as a grassland conservationist and district conservationist in the Carolinas, in Georgia. And I've done some work with native grasses throughout my career. But now that, and make sure you're paying attention to my slide, see that this is slide 1 of 100. So even though we're running short on time, usually if somebody's really reading the slide, they'll look at that and they'll just go ahead and get up late. Don't have quite that many, but we'll wrap it up pretty quickly. There's a lot of different methods, and we've talked about that already this afternoon, of restoration. There's rivery, fire, and of course mechanical and then chemical ways to establish some of the native grasses that we're doing, and a combination of all of them. There's challenges to planting as we're going through as we're deciding how we're going to plant. We've got to evaluate the site first. Is it clear? Are trees present? Or debris? Everything that we go into, we've seen a lot of pictures about how to, mainly we've talked, I think, about establishing wiregrass. But there's a whole suite of other plants out there. John pointed out that we want to get established in that understory. It wasn't just a longleaf pine wiregrass ecosystem. There was only wiregrass there. There were a lot of other herbaceous material, forbs that were growing out there. The soils play a big part. We talked about the sand hills and the flatwood sites that we are trying to get longleaf back on and get that understory in. Then there's the seed size, as John had just mentioned, and that was one of the reasons that I wanted him to touch briefly on debearding the seed. That's come a long way from the last 20, 25 years that we started trying to work and get established with our native plants. Whether we're using a switchgrass or an Indian grass, the switchgrass being a slicker seed, the Indian grass with that thick seed hull, the smooth, slick, fluffy seed, the beard seed. And then we have to think about planting rates and planting depths. As we go into it, again, looking at the sites, what is the kind of site that we're going into? This particular site was one that I began to cut my teeth on in working with native warm season grasses. It's not under longleaf pine, but what we were trying to do was get a mixture of native grasses established prior to planting loblolly pine. And this was back 20 years ago. Some of you may remember the 3-pass method of preparing land: KG, root rake, and disc. And our thought was, okay, if we can get in directly behind that 3-pass system, mimic nature, as a lot of folks have tried to do, broadcast the seed out there, let the rain drive it in, and get a good seeding depth. So I'll have to say I'm going so we can get one of them not really as good as what we hoped for. But we were using some really extremely high seeding rates, and there wasn't a lot of material out there as to where to start, especially in the southeast. John, back then, it was hard to get into the seed dealers to even talk to you about native grass in the eastern part of the country. There weren't any markets here. So then we began to think about, okay, what are our next step in doing this and looking at equipment is the seeding methods. Are we going to broadcast? We're going to drill. When I say drill, are we going to use a conventional type of seeding, or are we going to no-till? There's some, certainly broadcasting seed is a way to get it out there. There are calibration issues when you begin to try to broadcast seed. There's added expense because you're increasing the amount often with PLS. per acre that you've got to get out there to compensate for seed that has been mentioned. Doesn't make good seed soil contact, or you don't get covered up. You may need carriers, and then again the depth of seeding. But if you do decide to broadcast, Jim Truax has got an app for that. This is the seed slinger, a broadcaster that can be either mounted on the back of an ATV or put around your neck and carried and broadcast the seed across the landscape. Of course, these would be for smaller applications, not the larger applications, but I can tell you that particular the hand-operated seed slinger has had international use. Jim may know more about that, and I failed to mention that Mr. Jim Truax is sitting in the room, the owner and founder of the company that's been in this business for 40 years, and has gone through this process a lot longer than a lot of us that have been dealing with it. I saw those seed slingers in Afghanistan when I was deployed there in 2010, being used by the Afghans to try to reseed rangeland there. So site conditions, we move on from that to site conditions, and obviously the site conditions, we've looked at a lot of long lead pine stands that were already established. I think someone mentioned at one point there were cropland or pasture fields that were there, and our old fields that had to be treated first to get rid of the weeds. And certainly that's always a consideration. Are we going into a cropland field, or are we going into a pasture, or just an old abandoned field? How do we move from that stage to getting the seed in the ground? And then there's always the woodland site that we've seen a lot of pictures this afternoon about how those sites can be prepared using plants that, first say Morgan, but Jeff was working on, and how those sites are cleared up. All present different types of challenges to getting able or being able to plant, put the seed into the ground. When you begin to plant, if you are on a site that has and you are direct seeding, you have a way to plant a conventional or prepared seed bed. Truax has a tree-in seeder. It is a grassland type drill. It has a small seed box, a native grass box, and a cool season grain box that just basically mounted over a breeding seeder. Manages very well the depth of the seed. When we start talking about putting grasses into the soil, we're looking at trying to be a quarter inch deep, or no deeper than that. It's always better to come a little shallow than it is to bury too deep. If you bury too deep, and if you've had any experience in doing this, you know your seed will never see the light of day. If we're going into a heavier site, no-till, into a kill vegetation, or with even light debris on some of those forestry sites that you can get a planter over, we have a flex tube drill. It will get the seed placed correctly for you. Options for the conventionally prepared seed bed. Again, where we have cropland, pastures, or old fields, come in a variety of widths, 5, 8, 10, 12 foot, 3-point hitch. It's standard on 5 and 8-foot models, and of course, transport wheels are options on the 8 and anything to 10 and 12 ton of those transport wheels to help you get it up and down the road. A very good piece of equipment that will ensure the correct seeding depth, the correct amount of seed getting in touch with the soil. The Flex Tube Grass Series, and I've been talking, and for this talk, focusing more on the grass drill itself, covered the talking about putting grasses back in the understory, whether it be big blue, little blue, Indian switch, or wiregrass, or the forbs. These drills come in a variety of widths, 5'3" to 15-foot width. I often think about when we're going into established woodland or thin woodland sites, the narrow drills can go a little bit tighter in between the trees and get the planting done. 3 seed boxes available on all of the drills. And you can plant in a wide variety, if you're going into old pastures or onto a prepared seed bed. Flex tube drill is a piece of equipment that can do that for you. Key to the Truax drills is getting that land prepared in front of your double disc opener so that it can come in contact with the soil. This particular trash blade, 18.5-inch concave notch blade, standard equipment available on heavy or loose residue. Now, you can tell this one has had some use to it. Our points are rounded on the end, not quite as deep or concave as you see on a new one, but they'll still cut through. It helps maintain depth control and scalps that site, gets that debris out of the way so your double disc opener can come in contact and deliver the seed correctly. Another major feature on the drills, and that was one of the big problems that we always ran into, again, 20 or 25 years ago, 30 years ago in the southeast, we had no real good way to get those fluffy seed out. It didn't matter where we purchased them from. The Truax with the picker wheel and this auger agitator keeps the seed moving. It keeps it from breezing up. A lot of the guys that did try to use it and lost interest in trying to put out any of the fluffy grass seed, especially 85 or so when the CRP coming through this part of the country. And I'm saying this part of the country, the southeast in general, is they would take those fluffy seeds and try to put them into their grain drills and grain boxes. The seed would just bridge up and not go anywhere. Well, certainly this is the answer to that. I remember the first time I got from our plant materials center, I got some Indian grass, I got some big blue stem, possibly some switch within that mix, one or two others, I can't remember. And I'd never had them before, never seen them before. They showed up in my field office, I'd asked for them, my plant materials center sent them to me. All these bags come in, I piled them up there, had with me in my office, exact seed up. But when I put them out on a newly prepared site, the only thing I had was one of the old spin spreaders that you put around your neck and you put out ryegrass and wheat. So we finally throw it up in the air, let the wind carry, and see how it worked out. Again, not a very good way to do it, but there's some primitive ways of trying to get people interested in using these native grasses in our part of the world. Another thing that's on the Truax drill, the row dividers, being the cool season box or the small seed box, have to distribute the seed evenly across the seed box. What you're doing, if you pull one of these drills or one of the old-time drills, I'm saying old-time drills that are not really made to do this type of planting, the grain drills, you bounce across the field, the seed, depending on the elevation, your small seed, your grain seed, eventually you've got 3 or 4 tubes putting the seed out, you've got the majority of them not putting anything in. And you wonder what happens, especially if you're out there. These row dividers help eliminate that problem. Again, drill features, one of the unique things here, we have the small seed box, fluffy seed box, and the cool season box, all in one unit. You'll note that the flood to seed box has been designed by Mr. Truax so that there's almost a vertical drop, that seed is not getting clogged up in the tube as it goes through. Seed depth is critical. These bands, each drill comes with a depth band around the outside of the double disc opener. It falls behind that coulter, the trash coulter that I just showed you, followed by the press wheel. And there was some comment made earlier about being able to plant only within a narrow range of moisture conditions. And one of the things that Truax comes with are the scrapers in different locations, so that these scrapers keep the mud off of that. Your seed are being dropped and placed into the soil. The mud's not clogging up around the outside of your coulter. And if you have ever planted in wet conditions without the scrapers like this and without depth band, you know that getting a proper seeding depth is a real challenge. And even this year, some of the folks that I continue to work with pulled out of the field because of their drills and their newer drills with mud rolling up around their double disc openers and pulling the seed right back around their openers and their press wheels, and could not plant. Calibration probably, as I've had the opportunity this past year to work some trade shows with folks. Calibration is a fairly simple process with the drills. But when I've asked, well, folks come by, I have a Truax drill. Well, how does it work? Pretty good. And when a person says pretty good, one of the things that Mr. Truax wants to know is what the problem, why it's not working really good. And most of the comments I hear back are not drill-related comments. They're operator errors. There's operator problems there. The farmers and a lot of these conservation districts have them, as many of you know. I come in there, I get my drill, I plant with it, whatever I'm planting, whether it's fescue or clover or Indian grass, or typically stem, whatever. And whatever Vic set it at, I may look over the seed box and see what was in there. Well, if it's the same thing that I'm using, hey, it worked. I hook it up, I get a fill with it, and then I don't get a good stand. Day conditions, humidity, a lot of things that affect the size of your affect the seed. He might have had a completely different reason for the seeding rate that he was using, but I will take the time to stop and calibrate the drill properly. Another piece of equipment that's very important, and when you begin to calibrate the drill, it's a little set of springs still. Because once you're going through to do the calibration, John, I know you've had much more experience with calibrating these drills and getting them set up because of the acreage that you plant year in, year out. But being able to have that little piece of that little spring scale that you never know, knowing how much seed it's actually putting out, type of seed it's putting out, saves you money in the long run and saves you time. Closing, I tell you that, whatever, this is a planter that was from U.S. Forest Service out of Missoula. I put this up here to tell you that I know that Truax will work with you to meet your seeding requirements, whatever it might be. All you have to do is pick up the telephone, and you pick up and call Truax. You talk to Mr. Jim Truax. Man, been in the business for 4 years. Some of you may recognize, don't tell Ron Masters down at Tall Timbers that I used his picture for this, but there's a website, a very informative website that gives you all the Truax products. It's very good.
Chairman, have any questions for Mike?
Mr. Truax will be in the trade show for Monday and Tuesday. Certainly stop by and see us, pick up some of the literature that we have there. Visit with us. We really appreciate you stopping by and appreciate the opportunity to visit.